This is Carol Ann, and I want to welcome you to the Idris Diaries, episode 6. Joining me tonight is David Aston. How you doing, David?
Hello everybody, and I am a member of the Hamster League of Evil. I'm very proud of that. A bit like the Freemasons, only a bit more furry.
Hey, I want to thank you for staying up so late. Here it's 9:40 my time, but your time it's like what, 2:40 in the morning?
It is 2:40 a.m. and well, I've done lots of different sort of shifts over the years, and I think sort of working 3 to 11 or 11 to 7, it's sort of it it winds your body clock up so much that really it sort of loses all meaning really. So don't worry.
Well, thank you for joining me, and I figured for this special show we'll talk a little bit about Game of Thrones. How long have you been watching it? Have you been watching it from the very beginning?
Well, yeah, I sort of watched it from season 1 and season 2 and the last very dramatic and shocking season 3.
Right. I ended up watching it, I think it was like right before season 3 started, because everybody was talking about it, and I'm like, oh, let me give it a try. And I ended up downloading like the first 3 episodes off the internet. And then after that, I just, got so hooked, I ended up buying seasons 1 and 2. And then I managed to watch season 3, live. There was like this lady streaming it, but it was only like this little box, on the screen. And, I just like became so obsessed with the show. And I ended up getting HBO, for season 4, so I can like actually watch it on my TV, So,
Yes, it's a very, very good show. It's a rather interesting format of the show, and it has some drawback because it's not all perfect. But like I found with season 2 and 3, I said this in the Real Whovians and other Doctor Who related podcast series, Matrix Lord, 212, etc. Jimmy Porter, etc. Yourself, Stephen Price, and the Scottish bloke. I can never understand what he's saying. Go on.
oh, Graham.
I just pointed out that I thought, oddly enough, it's got the same amount of episodes per season as Doctor Who, but it's actually better, which is odd because you have characters who sometimes won't appear for episodes, for ages and then return. It's literally sort of like a patchwork of characters each episode.
Right. I mean, it's almost like a glorified soap opera kind of, where or you're watching like a movie that's never ending, because like you said, you'll go through like a good couple of episodes before you really know what's going on with like one specific character, and you're like thinking in the back of your head, well, what about Daenerys, or what about Sansa, or any of those people. It's like, what's going on with them, because they're focusing on all these other people, and then all of a sudden the next episode will be heavy with them. I mean, it's very well written, and the acting has been great. I mean, it took me a while when I started watching it. It took me a while to remember who was who, and I still get mixed up with the people's names, but I mean, it's just incredible, like, just where they're going with it. I've never read the books. Have you read any of the books?
No, I've never read them. I have been reading Wild Cards, which is by George R. R. Martin.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hoping after season 4, I'm hoping to start reading the books. I mean, if I go, some people have said, oh, don't go past book 4 then, but, I mean, I really don't care because, you know, you can't really compare reading a book to like watching something on TV anyway. But, I've just been so impressed with this show, and I'm actually a little disappointed that it hasn't won, many awards. I think it's only won like a couple, and that's when it first came out.
Hmm. It hasn't won as many awards as Doctor Who has, because that's won
Right.
quite a lot of awards, and Game of Thrones really, which I kept accidentally calling a Game of Thorns for some reason. It's absolutely classy.
Yeah.
In essence, the TV version of it has cut and taken some liberties. Like there's some characters that are in the books that you never even see, or ones which are only mentioned in dialogue. And in the last 3 seasons, in essence, we've had the War of the Thrones, the Lannisters, the Starks, the Targaryens and all that bollocks. And in essence, the Starks have been wiped out virtually by
Right.
the Lannisters. The Lannisters have ruled supreme, and to the climax, if you had an expression, which is something you see a lot in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Basically, the Red Wedding was really
Oh,
the crowning glory of the Lannisters, ending almost a dynasty. And you've seen a complete F-up of the whole family thing, because now the Lannisters betrothed to a Stark girl who has basically survived knowing that her brother, the Wolf, and his mother were brutally murdered.
right.
Holy smokes, that was
That
that Red Wedding, everybody would have shocked, I guarantee you. Even people know that was going to happen. But if you didn't know it was going to happen, if you were wise enough not to let spoilers be seen by yourself, which is difficult these days, that would have absolutely had you speechless. My jaw was literally open and, as they say, falling to the ground when I saw that happen. I
I
mean,
mean,
it was there was absolutely no mercy whatsoever, Carol,
right.
towards those characters. It was total annihilation.
Right. I mean, I felt the same way. I mean, like I said, I never read the books, and I'm really impressed that it really wasn't spoiled much because I mean, I'm a person where if I'm not googling Doctor Who and Matt Smith, I'm
Mm.
googling Game of Thrones. And I remember during season 3, like the day after every episode or whatever, I would always Google, to see, okay, what's going on, do they have any spoilers for next week? And the people who read the book knew what was happening. They knew what was going to occur. And nobody said anything. I mean,
Mm.
so I remember when I watched the very first episode when Jamie, pushed Bran out the window. I
Yeah.
remember being like, I had that kind of reaction, like, oh my God, When the red wedding happened, I was like, I was speechless. I remember just staring at the screen like, okay, is that going to be the end of the show? Because they just killed off, Rob and Catherine Stark. They were
Mm.
the two, main characters, I mean, yeah, I was like, what's going to happen now? I mean, I was just in total shock. And then the next day, of course, I Googled Game of Thrones, and then it was all over the place about, how the producers were saying thank you to the people who read the book for not spoiling it. And it was just all over the place. People were like just in total shock. They
Just like Stephen Moffat did after Doctor Who fans didn't reveal what happened, with that box set and stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was just. I mean, I was just so like, honestly, I think if this production wasn't done in Scotland and it was done here in the United States, it probably would have been, you know, it probably would have been, spoiled because,
Yeah.
us Americans, we spoil everything. But, I was just so, it was, I still, when I watched it again, leading up to the fourth season last week, I ended up watching seasons 1, 2, and 3 within a 2 week span.
Mm.
I watched season 1 within one weekend, and then in the next couple of weeks, I ended up watching seasons 2 and 3. So I knew what was happening. I knew what was going on. But when I watched it, I was still like, oh my God. I mean, the
No, it's the
way.
same as Sean Bean. I thought that was hilarious. The first season was basically like a sort of Royal Tudor season, really.
Right.
It's all based mainly in the Stark realm, I thought, and it felt like a sort of British sort of Shakespearean production. That's what it was really. All Yorkshire voices and ear up and all that sort of thing. And you got Sean Bean, and he was killed off just like, oddly enough, his wife and son were.
Right.
And all these female fans, all these feminists were upset because their bit of hunky goodness had been beheaded.
Yeah.
And the only snag is that's a rather dangerous thing to do because actually Game of Thrones has got away with it quite a few times, killing off very popular characters played by very popular actresses or actors, and it's still survived.
Right. I mean,
And then season 2 was really the sort of warming up of the war, the stripping back of this cosy world, and also the downgrading of these idea that no characters are any certain characters are capable of surviving. No point about no
he,
point about George R. Martin. There's a joke now that he kills off. Oh yeah, there's a thing about There's a joke from Twitter about 140 characters. He kills them off all the time, or something like that.
I mean, I was shocked when I, saw like Ned Stark get killed. I was like, I was just so, like, wow, because that was like a major character. And I remember, I kind of knew something was going to happen because everybody was, complaining about it. And this is before I watched it, so I kind of knew what was going to happen, but I didn't know how he was killed off, but I can understand if I ended up watching it right when everybody else was watching it. I could understand being like, well, you just killed off like the major character because at that moment,
Hmm.
Ned Stark,
Always snarking.
he was like he was the major character. He really was,
Hmm.
and then everybody else was kind of like secondary. And then they killed him off, and then in the second season, it became like, Rob became like the main character,
Yeah.
and then that carried on until to season 3, and then they killed him off and his mother. So really, there's only like 4 Starks left.
Hmm.
There's Sansa, what's the girl's name? Anya.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
she's the one who's basically she's like the princess in the tower really. She's sort of survived the slaughter and she's hiding, in hiding in exile type. Oh, she's like uh she's of course she's just like now Queen Elizabeth the first would have been,
Oh, okay.
sort of heir to the throne but in danger of being put to death type thing. Sorry, go on.
Right. And then you have like Bran, and then you have Bran's younger brother. So I don't know what they're going to do with Bran's younger brother, if he's just going to be kind of like, in the background now or what. But one thing that I do want to ask you,
Mm.
um, do you still feel sorry for the Starks?
Well, not really, because they've still got Tony Stark, who's doing rather well
Yeah.
for himself. Uh, and he's a member of the Avengers, so who knows, perhaps.
The reason why I ask is because when I watched the three seasons over again,
Mm.
I paid more attention to like other dialogue and other things going on, where it's not like you're watching it for the first time, where you tend to focus on certain people. I tried to really like listen this time.
I just watch it for the bonking sometimes.
Yeah. I ended up.
Do I feel sorry for the Starks? Well, I'll be terribly honest. I think the Starks in season 3 were acting a little bit naive.
Right.
That's the trap they fell into. The Lannisters have a history of being pretty brutal. Charles Dance's character, like in the very first episode of season 4 points out, he's already been very brutal with, I can't remember this new sort of uh, royal families arrived for the wedding,
Right.
and they point out that his sister and his nephews had been brutally murdered in a war or something by Charles Dance's actions in the past. And Charles Dance has done that. He's the head of the Lannisters family, of course. He's done that more than once, sort of brutally getting rid of enemies in a war. And the Starks were being a little bit too poncy, really. They were being, they were a bit naive about the greed. And that's the thing about from season onwards, you've seen Joffrey become more and more like the Mad King, because he's related to the Mad King. He started from a little brat
Right.
who was okay, and now he's become basically a tyrant and dictator who's taking credit for winning the war when it was actually Tyrone who basically won it,
Right.
really. And over the seasons, you've seen the nasty sort of not just simply espionage type thing, but like the murder, that speech about the climb, after you've discovered that whore brothel owner had
Right.
been basically shot to
Littlefinger.
death by Joffrey, which is a little dead now. But that wonderful. That's the thing. You have these fucking marvelous scenes like that speech of the climb. About the fact that some people think they can do the climb. That it's a dangerous world, Game of Thrones. And if you're not careful, you could end up being the next person killed. It's just a fucking brilliant.
Yeah, and what I found is when I watched it over again for the second time, there was like subtle little hints being dropped here and there, about like not going against, like with Ned not going against King Robert, and then Catherine, constantly saying to Rob, don't go against, who was it, Frey, the guy who played in Harry Potter.
Mm.
And they said, a couple of times she kept saying, you made a promise. You should not go against your promise. And then, of course, he goes against his promise. Ned ends up. If you think about it, you have like this family who's like really powerful, the Lannisters and the Baratheons. And you find out that Joffrey, the heir to the throne, really isn't the legitimate heir to the throne. And then Ned was naive enough to think that he was going to go up to King Robert, and say, oh, by the way, your son really isn't your son, but is actually the illegitimate, like, bastard child from your wife and your wife's brother, you know? And then,
That's not.
I
Well,
mean,
that went down well, really, didn't it?
yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, so there was that naivety there by Ned. And then with with Rob, he kept saying, you know, he went and did what he wanted because he felt like, okay, I'm the king of the north. I love this woman. I am going to marry her, even though I made this promise
Mm.
with this other guy, you know. And he was so naive. He was blind, thinking that, you know, this guy Frey, even though he didn't come out and publicly support one side or the other, he was so naive, thinking that he wasn't, something bad wasn't going to happen because he went against his promise. So,
A lot of the kings seem to have met bad endings. You have the last dragon being given a crown of molten
oh yeah, and
or whatever. You have a mad king. You have Joffrey, who's a mad king and also a fake in more ways than one.
right,
You have a dead king, you know, Wolf, who would have been a king. And you have, oh boy, yeah, oh, blimey. With each season, characters have shifted from being good guys to bad guys or in between.
right,
And also, you know, people you thought you could trust have become more desperate, really.
yeah,
And where's the fat balding git, you know, without a penis? Because I haven't seen him lately. I haven't seen him in season 4, episode 1, which
yeah,
is two swords. It opens basically with them melting down the sword that belonged to Robb Stark, I think it was, and burning his wolf
yeah.
thing. Yeah,
I mean, uh, I'm wondering. It's like, why did, unless it was heavily mentioned in the books, you know, why did they spend like the first good couple of minutes of the episode showing, you know, the sword being melted down and making a big deal that there was now two swords.
That was almost one last sort of. Yeah, you got Charles Dance's characters. It's like ceremonial. He's destroying something that was sacred to that family house,
Yeah,
and turn it in. It's so large that he was able to turn it into two swords, and he gives it to Jamie, but yeah, doesn't tell him who it used to belong to.
yeah. But I'm wondering if that sword, Jamie's sword now, which was part of, you know, Robb Stark's sword. I wonder if that's going to come back to haunt them, where that sword is going to be used to like kill like Joffrey or something.
Who's the bloke who had his knob chopped off in the last season?
Oh, oh, what the hell's that kid's name? Oh, damn it. He was the guy from that island. Damn it. I'll have to look it up. I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name.
Season 3, he was caught and tortured.
Right.
And before, he'd been a right little skit. But he had, you know, basically had a
Yeah, see, I really didn't.
life-changing effect.
I really
And
didn't
it's
feel
not-
sorry for him.
So we've had one sword chopped off and another melted down.
I really didn't feel sorry for that guy because he like
I think it's more of a slightly more than feeling sorry for him.
what I mean because he ended up going against Robb, you know, Stark, when he went back home to the Iron Islands.
Yeah.
You know, so I gotta look his name up. I can't think. Let's see. I'm trying to look on my phone really quick. Yeah, I can't think what that guy's name was. Oh, what the hell's his name?
Shorty.
Yeah. You know who else is going to be interesting? I think in season 4 is you know, Arya or Anya, Arya. You know, the daughter there. You know, the one who's running around with the Hound.
Oh yes, well that's what we saw this season. You know, the Hound, as usual, came out with this wonderful line that involved cunts,
Yeah.
No, he's such the interplay between characters is beautiful. You
Oh,
know.
it's Theon Greyjoy.
Yeah.
That's the guy who, got his thing whacked.
Oh gosh, yes. During the siege, where they used that green sort of powdered stuff that was stored in the castle or something like that. Tyrone used it. It's like their sort of version of napalm, basically.
Oh yeah, the wildfire.
Yeah, wildfire. Um, oh, I love this scene. It's the Hound basically in front of Joffrey and Tyrone saying, "Fuck this war and fuck the king," and just walked off.
Right. I mean, I when
Basically had shell shock. Like First World War syndrome. It was
yeah.
it was a perfect scene of even this hardened, tough as nails, warrior had had enough.
Yeah, I mean, what they've done with his character, I think, is like really different because when you first see him, you just figure he's like a hired thug,
Yes.
But then you start to realize that, because he could have easily killed, the Stark girl, and you know, he could have like he could have gone back to King's Landing with no problem and say, "Here she is, give me money." You know what I mean? I mean, but instead he's actually kind of taking care of her in a way. But
Yeah.
she's also becoming she's becoming like a murderer, because in
Yeah.
like last week's episode, you see her, not for like self defense or anything like that.
Oh
She,
yeah, that's the bit that has the
yeah,
cunt bit in it.
yeah,
He says, "Oh, you named it Needle," and she says, "Lots of people name their swords," and that's the bit where he said, "Yeah, cunts."
yeah, and she goes right up to that guy who like stole, her sword
Mm.
or needle, and ended up killing him the same way he killed that boy in the forest,
Yeah,
when they were on their way to the wall. I mean, so her character is becoming a little bit interesting too because it's like, okay, how far is she gonna go?
yeah. That's a good point actually, Cal, because you've seen her become a bit more angry and more quick to use sword,
Yeah,
which isn't really the hound's fault at all. Yeah, that's precisely what would happen if you had your mother and brother killed. It would have it would break down some of your um, inhibitions, violence-wise. And another thing I've noticed, the Dragon Queen, I have a
Daenerys.
suspicion she's going to become a bit of a dictator, as well as lose control of her dragons, which you see in the first episode.
Yeah, I got that too because I'm wondering, okay, the first season you basically feel sorry for her, because her brother was, excuse my language, his brother was a bastard. I mean,
Yeah.
he really was, I mean, he basically said,
She was a noob.
yeah, he basically said, I would have people rape you 1,000 times, or I would have 1,000 men rape you if I thought that would get me the throne, the Iron Throne. I mean, so it's like, what a nice brother. And then, she marries, the king there of the Dyraki or Desraki, whatever you call him, and then she loses her baby, loses him, and then it's like, okay, now what? But then at the end, you think she died or something like that, but then, she's there with her dragons. Then
Yeah.
it's all of season 2. It's her. You get the idea that she's very compassionate and she's all about freedom.
Yeah,
And
she's like Martha Stewart.
yeah, and she's all like, all these people are for her. And then the way she acted last week, where she's petting her dragon and then the dragon's all like, "Rrr," and then she's all like shocked.
Yeah,
And then the guy said to her, her advisor, he goes, Daenerys, those are wild animals. They'll never be tame, you know.
but still you can't tame dragons.
Yeah, and
It's
then
just her dragon, her original dragon, is now fully grown, and
yeah.
she's got her own sort of uh, draglets or something,
You know,
and that's
but
she was protecting them basically.
yeah. So I mean, so I kind of felt sorry for her because she could, she really loves her dragons, but at the same time, how naive is she gonna be? I mean, is she gonna think that if she thinks it's gonna be that easy to, take over, you know, Westeros and, get the Iron Throne back, I mean, it's really not going to be that easy because how do you know what your dragons are going to do? And another thing I'm wondering, and our good friend Matrix Lord, I think, mentioned this at one point. You know how Bran is,
Bran flakes.
yeah, you know how he's able to like get into the mind of animals,
Yeah.
right?
Oops.
How do you know he's not going to be able to take over the dragons?
Hmm. Hmm.
And
What does he do with when he gets into the mind of animals? What does he actually do then?
I don't think they really brought that up, but you get the impression that he could either see through them. He could. I guess you're supposed to be able to see through their eyes, but he's able to go one step farther because he was able to control the wolves. But also, what he did that I guess no other person with that ability was able to do is get into the mind of a person. Because remember that guy, Hordor? Is that his name? You know,
Hodor.
yeah, he got into his mind. So he's a really powerful kid. So I'm
Oh
wondering.
yes, I just remembered. I think our good friend Stephen Price is actually during one of his autograph convention visits. He actually met the actor who played
Oh yeah, I think I saw a picture of that. Right? It didn't. Was he the one that did a shout out to like Michael Shannon? I think
yes, yes, he
was
did.
okay.
Th- Yes, he did, and smug git. But
But I mean, I would love to go meet some of those guys. That would be so cool. But I don't know. I think there's a lot more that's going to be happening with. I think this season is going to be like even more shocking than the end of season 3.
I see season 4 as the beginning of a new sort of era. Season 1 to 3 was, the main battle between Lancers, Starks, etc.
Yeah.
And now that whole thing's come to an end because each season doesn't do an entire book. It covers, sections of one book or the next bit, etc. Oh yes, we got the White Walkers, haven't we?
Oh yeah, and I forgot those. Yeah, because I mean they were. Oh my God! At the end of season 2, when you saw those, I was like flipping out. I mean, come on, you got these like, that zombie ice zombie on the horse. I mean, that was like,
It's
uh,
like
uh,
an the Osborne or
yeah,
I made a video on acid.
yeah. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God! So I immediately went onto the computer, found that picture, and made it my screensaver for like a year. I mean that scene was incredible. But you really haven't had much of the White Walkers. You really haven't had. You had that one scene. You had the beginning, the very first episode. You had that one little scene. Then you had that little bit on the wall when Jon Snow killed one of them.
Yeah.
Then you had, the end of season 2. Then you had that one thing with that guy Sam, who I'm surprised he's still alive. But you have Sam kill that one guy, and that was about it. You really haven't had
Yes, you mean
much with
Sam is still alive?
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't been killed yet.
You thought the fat bloke would have got it by now.
Yeah,
A sort of local character would get killed off because that's what George R. Martin likes to do, really, I suppose.
yeah. I mean, I was so surprised that he hasn't been killed off yet. But I'm wondering. Here's a question for you: do you think Joffrey is going to be killed this season, or is he going to be around for a while?
Well, actually, odd you should mention that because a few weeks ago I watched this video by the Young Turks on YouTube, and according to them and the internet as well, the actor who plays Joffrey says he's doesn't want to act anymore. He doesn't
Huh.
like fame. So I'm not sure if that affects it. I don't know, but Joff. There's this scene with Joffrey. I don't. Well, I'm not turning into a horse or anything. Um, there's this scene in episode 1 of season 4, Two Swords, which you can now get on Netflix, etc. He said, trying to sound like a half asleep pun. Um, and
That sounded good.
they're looking through this book. Joffrey and Jamie and this other bloke who used to be Joffrey's protector while Jamie was off, having his hand chopped off.
Okay.
No harm in trying. But looking through the book, and all these past nights and stuff have deeds, and they come to Jamie's, page, and it's empty. He hasn't got any deeds, and Joffrey, being such a sensitive soul, says, "How are you supposed to protect me with one arm? When you haven't got any deeds, what kind of knight you are?" Which, unbeknownst to him, he's saying to his father. And that's what you see. That's it. What's going to happen to him? Because Joffrey can't protect himself because he can't fight, he can't rule. He's basically a king where everybody else is doing all the work for him.
Yeah, he's basically a fake king.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if, because I've been hearing little tidbits here and there about some kind. They're calling his wedding with that, Joffrey's wedding. They're calling it the Purple Wedding. So
Oh
so
dear.
so okay, you had the red wedding, and now you're gonna have the purple wedding. Well, what's gonna happen at the purple wedding? Is Joffrey gonna be killed at the purple wedding, or is he gonna
It's going to be it's going to be a gay wedding. Perfect.
gay wedding?
'Cause in Japan, they have this ceremony, this festival called a penis festival, apparently, where they go around wearing sort of penis costumes. So
Oh.
I'm presuming for a wedding. Or is it going to, is this a pun, do you think, on, that Purple Rain, that, Prince song or something?
Oh yeah, purple. That would be interesting if they play that during during the purple wedding. That would be.
So this is going to be another sort of sweepstakes sort of episode, do you think? Halfway through the season or something?
See, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's going to be next week. This Sunday, or I'm not really sure because they really didn't say much about what was happening this coming week. I'm going to be surprised in a way if they kill Joffrey off so soon. Because he's such a major character right now. But I mean, anything could happen. But I'm just wondering, and if he does get killed this season, who's going to kill him? I mean, for me, it would be kind of a letdown if that girl Anya, whatever her name is, doesn't kill him. Because he was responsible for killing his friend. That's how everything all started. When Anya and her friend were like the sword fighting by that stream, and then he came around, and then her wolf ended up biting him. That's how like everything started, kind of.
The
So
audience will be rooting for Joffrey to get it from either Arya or Sansa, because they're
Yeah.
both Starks. And oh dear God, he's been taking credit for killing, the wolf and so forth. First, you see Charles Dance's character melting down the fabled sword of the Starks and destroying that, wolf uh, coat type thing. Putting it in the fire, and then you see this stupid statue of Joffrey looking proud,
You're right.
with his foot on a wolf, like he's just, trampled over it. Utter bollocks. The little git, he's completely fake. Yeah,
He really is. I mean, he wouldn't last 2 seconds in a legitimate fight, and that would be interesting too. Is if something happens and somebody challenges him, and then his grandfather there says, "You're the king. You have to accept the challenge." So it's going to be like, "You're dead."
Speaking of his grandfather, though, you got that bloke who, who's come to the wedding. The one who has some issues with the Lannisters. He hates the Lannisters.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay.
He's one candidate to kill Charles Dance. And then there's Joffrey himself, because in the last season, if you remember, he was actually standing up to Charles Dance's character, saying "I'm king," etc., etc.
Oh yeah, and then
And
he's
I got the impression that he might be willing to. He could align himself with that other bloke, the you know, I don't know what his name is, Mr. Angry. Let's call him that. He could align himself with Joffrey. Could align himself with Mr. Angry, just like the Lannisters aligned themselves with the bloke who was in the Doctor Who '60s Hartnell drama.
yeah, and also if you remember that scene when Jeffrey kept saying, "I'm the king, I'm the king," his
Yeah.
grandfather said, you know, those who have to keep saying, "I'm the king," are not the king.
Gonna get a purple wedding.
Yeah, so who knows? The grandfather may end up arranging his assassination. I mean, you really don't know. It's gonna
Yeah,
be,
that's possible.
and then also I wonder what is gonna happen with Sansa and who is it? Tyrion? Is that the other Lannister?
Tyrone.
Tyrant. I always get those guys mixed up. I don't know why.
Well,
Well, no, I'm
Peter Dinklage.
yeah.
So there's a big difference.
Well,
between
no, I'm talking about the names. I mean, it would be so easy if they called them like Michael and David or something.
Michael and David.
Instead of like, what is it? Tyrion and
Tyrone and
Yeah,
Idris and
they're too similar.
Tyler and
I get them confused too much.
yeah. Well, I definitely think Charles Dance is the hierarchy of the Lannisters. He's in control of it all, so he might either be the target of the next sort of massacre, because there's bound to be another one, or he might be, the person who sets it in motion.
Right. I'm really looking for. So, what are you looking for? What would be if you had the power to write, a scene, in Game of Thrones? What would you like it to be?
It's funny you should mention that. Well, picture this in. There's this bedchamber, and
Why am I not surprised?
and it comes this incredibly handsome character who, just by sheer coincidence, has a very Leicestershire accent like myself. Just happens to have the same height as me, and let's call him Day Tyrone or something like that. I don't know. And he puts a bag of money on the table, and there's like three 18-year-old sort of brothel prostitutes that they're absolutely beautiful. You can basically guess the rest of it.
Okay. Why am I not surprised? That would be the best scene, right?
That will be a special episode that goes on for 50 minutes, and all the other characters that you usually see are not in it. They were given the week off.
I guess for me, mine wouldn't be as dramatic as that, but I would probably. I really want to.
Things would go through the roof. Lots of women would, add me on Facebook, and it would, it wouldn't be purple.
Yeah.
Not in a wedding sense.
I guess with me, I really want to see, if I had my choice, I really want to see Anya in a legitimate sword fight, but her like remembering what that guy taught her, and she actually like wins a legitimate like sword fight. I think that would
like a Spanish sword expert.
yeah, because we're assuming that he died.
I don't seem to that sort of fencing saber fighting bloke. I never saw him die, and he was teaching a proper sword fighting, just like his father was taught, and her father was taught and stuff.
Right. But I would love to see her
actually. Joffrey isn't very good. Joffrey wasn't as good as and that fight in the barn with Hand, she got needle out.
Yeah.
Got her revenge in precisely the manners that guy killed her friend.
Right.
And she was very brutal, very very brutal.
Yeah,
so,
I think I would like to see more of her a little bit. That I think that's what I would like to see, is to see where she's going. Is she gonna like? Is she out of all the characters? I love Daenerys and everything like that because she has dragons, and what girl doesn't like dragons? But I think I'm more interested in seeing where she's gonna go. Anya, because she could go anywhere. She can end up becoming almost like what the Hound was. You know what I mean?
Well, the Hound is now basically like a father figure to her.
Or even the Mountain. Like the Hound's brother. Remember in season 1 he got all pissed off and ended up cutting that poor horse's head off and stuff like that. Because
who is the Mountain? I can't remember who the Mountain was.
I can't. You saw him so briefly. I think you only saw him in like one episode.
One of those characters that has appeared,
but supposedly he's going to be showing up again this season.
Well, it's just every time they went on about the bloody mountain, I thought, are they speaking figuratively?
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with her. She's the one that I'm really going to be, watching, this season more than the others. But
I think, they're both Stark sisters are damaged goods now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to them.
They can channel and push their character in any direction. You got Sansa's basically damaged goods. She looks like she might become a sort of female Mad King, and Arya is in essence sort of becoming like a sort of Jaime Lannister Hound type character.
Right.
She's becoming more. She's in that scene. She seemed more like Joffrey, really, oddly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because if you think about it, she's done that, like, because what was it? It was at the end of the 3rd season. She went up to. Bye. Oh, my mom's saying bye. Good night.
You going back down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sphinx's eye was a little bit.
But I'm not a podcast mom.
Good night, everybody.
Oh, David said hi.
Oh, hi, David. Good night, David.
Good night. She said good night. I'll have to edit this part out. But do you remember at the end of season 3 when it was right after her brother and mother got killed, and there was the campsite, and she goes up to the campsite and is like, oh, can I sit by your fire, but I'm cold and hungry, blah blah blah, and they're like, oh, piss off or whatever. And then just out of nowhere, she takes like a dagger that she stole from the Hound and just like totally murders the guy.
Yeah.
No,
Psycho.
yeah, no self defense, no nothing. I mean, he just went right up and bam, 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 like just totally killed the guy.
Yeah, because they're laughing about. There was this scene where she sees
The wolf, the wolf's head,
the
right?
wolf stuck on the body. Yeah. Oh dear.
You
I
know-
mean, first you have the previous episode before. You have the Red Wedding, which earned its name. Let's face it. And then the next episode, you see them, mocking, his body and the whole symbolism of the wolf.
Right.
It was heartbreaking for the viewer. And then they're around the campfire laughing about it because they're people who saw it. And she just goes absolutely apeshit.
I know. I mean, she just like all out didn't even think about it. Just killed the guy. I mean, so that's why I'm.
But don't forget though, she's already seen, her father beheaded.
Yeah.
In a way which was cruel because Joffrey originally promised that he'd be spared if he denounced and accepted the king, him. So twice, Joffrey has basically indirectly or directly been responsible for several members of her family becoming kebab.
Yeah. So I think if I had my choice, I really want to see her kill Joffrey. I really think it should be at least one of the Stark women. The 2 remaining Stark women. It really should be one of them. But
Yeah, well, her life is gone rather stark.
yeah. And it's also going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with Sansa. Is she going to, since she's actually a Lannister now, I mean, how is she going to, like, fit into everything?
She's a bit of a weak character in the show, really. She doesn't normally do much.
Yeah, but it would be interesting to see because now she's a Lannister, technically she's going to have a little bit more leeway on what she can and can't do, because, since she's a Lannister, the Lannisters can't really turn her away because that would make them look bad.
Well, the Dragon Queen isn't getting her knockers out this season, unfortunately.
But it's only been one episode. You never know.
Because she's been doing bonking in past episodes, which is odd because I read on one site that her character's 16, and she's been doing several sex scenes in the past. So there you go. But the actress is in her contract that she doesn't want to do any naked scenes or anything.
Yeah, I ended up reading an article somewhere where she said that she was getting kind of tired of always being naked. So, I guess you can kind of understand her point of view. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame her, but I know there's probably going to be a lot of guys out there that are going to be upset about it. Because really and truly, season 1, it was like a shocker. It seemed like every time she turned around, she was like naked.
Not every time.
Well, just about.
A serious war scene, she turns around and starts naked.
Yeah.
The Lannisters are approaching from the south, turns around the camera, muff shot or something like that. Sort of kills the mood, really.
Well, is there anything else you want to add?
I think, yeah, anything I can think of. Yeah, I, 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 I did feel as though we're now in season 4. I think it's perhaps become a little bit more family friendly. I got the impression from the first episode. There's, there were several potential chances for me to see a bit of bonking, apart from the start of the episode, which actually turned out to be a gay type thing, because, I don't know, just, how do you, any predictions for the characters briefly?
Um, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who's going to get killed next, but it's like so difficult because you just don't know. Um, I'm actually guessing that the next major, major death. I can't see any of the Starks, remaining Starks getting killed, but I could picture one of the Lannisters getting killed. I don't know if it's going to be Joffrey or not, but it can also be. I wouldn't doubt it being. What's her mother? What's the girl? The mother's name? Joffrey's mother.
Um,
Cersei? Is
Uh,
it Cersei or something?
oh, speaking of her though, there was that maid or spy or somebody who's overheard, Tyrone talking to his bird.
Yeah. So
So that she
she's
knows
probably going to
about
get
that
killed.
now. Yeah.
She's probably
Oh,
going to get
yeah.
killed.
He just, his sister's basically got a sort of blackmail type thing over his head now.
Yeah. So I mean, that's going to be interesting, is because his father said from like went back in season 2 that horror is not going with you to King's Landing, and then he did it anyway. He brought her anyway,
Mm.
and originally everybody thought it was the redhead, that Joffrey ended up killing, but
I don't think the Starks will be seen as a priority because, from the Lannisters' point of view, they're virtually extinct. They pose
yeah,
no threat anymore.
yeah. I don't think we're probably going to be seeing more of Bran's powers, and I'm hoping that eventually.
More families have been introduced. More families have been introduced now because there are other families
Yeah,
in
because you got
the
the
book
You
series.
got the Tyrells that
Yeah.
you got to consider, and then you also got the Greyjoys. Because what's his face is Leon or
Oh,
Tyron.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
his sister is coming to rescue him.
Oh, yeah.
So I think you got like some more, and then you still got the Baratheons to deal with, and that like the Lord of the Light. You still got to figure out what's going on there.
The,
Who?
the first 3 seasons were match one, but the game is far from over.
Yeah, I mean,
Because it's like musical chairs, really. In terms of who's got the upper hand in power over others, it's like musical chairs. It keeps changing.
yeah. So I mean, I think basically we're gonna like you said. I think we're gonna be introduced to more characters, and if I was to guess a major death, it's gonna be one of the Lannisters, because so far none of them have died yet. It's always been the Starks. We haven't really seen any like major Lannisters killed. I mean, there was those 2 boys, those cousins or whatever.
Mm.
But as far as the main characters, the main group like Jamie and Cersei and all them, we haven't seen any. So it could. I'm guessing this season we're gonna have a major death in the Lannister clan.
Characters are introduced in the Game of Thrones for one reason, so that they can be potentially killed off.
Yeah. well, this has been fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's going on to
definitely.
an hour. I'm looking forward to this Sunday. I can't wait. We'll have to get together to talk about this next episode. And
Yeah. Episode 2.
yeah. And thanks for joining me. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been my pleasure, everyone. Thank you, Carol.
And thanks for listening, everyone. And look forward to more episodes dealing with Game of Thrones and other episodes with the Idris Diaries. Good night, everyone.